All right, so I wanted to do a couple more word problems out of section 3.4 to show you how the questions are going to be formatted when you take your test. So this is what you're going to see when you take your test. You're going to see the word problem. A chemist needs 9 ounces of a 10% alcohol solution, but only has a 15% solution. How many ounces each of the 15% solution and water should he mix to make the desired 9 ounces of 10% solution? So again, the first thing you always have to do with these problems is figuring out what the heck are you looking for. So that's the declare your variable step. What are we trying to find in this problem? What are we trying to find? 9%? 10%? No, not trying to find 10%.
How much of the 15% solution do you use each?
Correct. So what are your variables? What are you looking for? That almost always comes from the last sentence. So the last sentence says, how many ounces of each of the 15% solution and water? So right there, that tells you what you're looking for. So I need 2 variables. What do I want to call them? X and Y, all right. So what's X? What do you mean by the solution? So it's the amount of 15% solution. And what's Y? The amount of water. All right, so you might remember before when we did these, we do little pictures like this. So we're starting with X amount of the 15% solution. We're going to dump in some water, so we're going to add water, that's Y. And when we get all done, what do we want to have? We want to have 9 ounces. So there's our first equation. Our first equation is X plus Y equals 9. Okay, and then we have the percents. The first solution that we're starting with starts with a 15% solution. When we get all done, the 9 should be a 10% solution. What goes under the Y? 0%. Why 0%? It's pure water. How much alcohol is in pure water? None. So that one should be a 0%. So that's a little different from things we've seen in the past, but that's what that one should be. Okay, so how do you get your second equation? Okay, so there's a big difference there between Y and 0Y. All right, so what did you do for the first one? The first one you took the percent times the amount. So for the second one, you have to take the percent times the amount. So it would be 0, that's correct. Equals
0.1.
All right, so on the left, again, we took percent times amount, and this is the biggest mistake people usually make. On the right-hand side, you also need to do percent times amount. A lot of people tend to write 0.10 there, or they tend to write 9, and both of those are wrong. It needs to be 0.10 times 9. It's percent times amount. So you always need to take percent times amount there for your second equation, all the way across. Well, that one works out pretty easy, because that's just 0.15x equals 0.9. We end up with a system of equations, but one of them only has one letter in it. That's nice. That's easy to solve. I grab my calculator. What's 0.9 divided by 0.15? 6. So we need 6 ounces of the 15% solution. And then how much water do we need? 3 ounces. So there's my answer. So that one, the system of equations turned out to be very, very easy to solve. Probably the easiest one we've ever seen. Questions on that one? All right, let's try one more. A person plans to invest twice as much money in an MTP small cap growth account at 8% interest as in a Times Square small cap growth account at 13% annual interest. How much money should the person invest in each account to earn a total of $1,885 in 1 year? All right, so again, the place to start with is, what are we looking for? And we're looking for the amount the person wants to invest in. Is there just one account? There's two accounts. So we need a variable for how much we're going to invest in each of the two accounts. Again, we need two variables. What do we want to call our variables? X and Y. You guys like X and Y. All right. So what's X? X is how much money you're going to put in the first one. Okay. So X is amount of money invested in MTP account. And then what's that make Y to be? Amount of money invested in Times Square account. All right, so there's how you start. Write down very clearly what you want your variables to be. I think that'll help a lot. Write your equations. Anybody got an equation for me?
X plus 5 equals 1885.
I don't think so. I don't think it says the person is going to invest a total of 1885. What's 1885?
That'd be 0.8x plus 0.135, right?
Right. 1885 is how much interest the person wants to earn in 1 year. So, 0.08x, what would 0.08x be? What's that in words?
That would be 8% of whatever you put in.
That's 8% of whatever you put in that first account. So that's how much interest you earned on the first account. Plus, how much interest do we earn on the second account? 0.13y. And we want our interest to be 1885. Notice this problem worked almost exactly the same as the other problem. Notice we still have percent times amount plus percent times amount. The difference is over here they told us exactly what the interest was going to be. We didn't have to do percent times amount over there. Okay, so there's one equation. What's the other one? Bless you. All right, I think the other one comes from the person plans to invest twice as much money in one account as the other. So how does that give me an equation?
The 0.08 has to be twice as much as 0.30.
Okay, so the amount of money in the 0.08 has to be twice as much as the money in the 0.13 account. I agree. So what's that look like as an equation?
It'd be 0.08x the second one or times 2?
Yeah, one of them gets times by 2. Which one?
It'd be
So that X plus that.
All right, so about half the people will usually say it should be 2x equals y, and about half the people will say it should be x equals 2y. One of those is right and one of those is wrong. And here's the way I think of it. The person is going to invest twice as much money in the 8% account. Which account's going to have more money in it?
x.
The X account is going to have more money in it, isn't it? Because we're putting twice as much money in the X account. So if x is the bigger one, then don't I have to multiply the y by 2 to get x? Yeah, I think so. So the wording there is confusing. It says you're going to put twice as much money in the MPT account. So people tend to want to multiply the x by 2, but it works the other way. X is the bigger one. X has more money in it. So to figure out x, I have to take y and multiply it by 2. So that one is wrong. It should be that equation, x equals 2y. And that's one that always confuses people. Well, not everybody, but almost always confuses people. And it's the way the wording is. You see the twice here next to the 8% account, so you think the 8% account should be multiplied by 2. But it's the other way. The other one needs to be multiplied. All right. How are we going to solve? Substitution, graphing, or elimination? This is definitely a substitution problem. It's already set up for substitution. So we're going to plug into there. 0.08 times 2y plus 0.13y equals 1885. 0.08 times 2 is 0.16, so 0.16y plus 0.13y is 1885. 0.16 plus 0.13 is 0.29. Y equals 1885. I divide. I grab my calculator. I didn't bring a calculator today. What's 1885 divided by 0.29? $6,500. So the person's going to invest $6,500 in the times square account, and then X would be twice that amount. 13,000 in the 8% account. Questions on either of those two problems?